Hey guys, it's Al, and welcome back to the channel. I'm actually going to be trying something a little different. Lately everything's kind of a little different. I'm being tasked with different things to try and to put into effect for the channel and my own life purpose and achievement of what I'm trying to do as far as my soul's purpose. So what I'm actually going to be doing is I'm going to be presenting what is essentially kind of like a lesson plan, which I thought was kind of interesting because I was a trainer way back when, but I haven't really done that in a while. So again, this is kind of part of the looking at life from a different lens and kind of preparing for everything that possibly can come my way as part of my life purpose, which, as many of you will recall, is to go into some of the darker places of life, into the recesses of people's minds that may have gotten a little broken or lost along the way, and kind of help navigate that uncharted water and go in there and get them to follow back out into the light, which means that I'm going to be doing a lot of listening to people's true stories and picking up exactly what it is that they're actually dealing with and where they might have been disconnected from reality and finding those spots. But in order to do that, that means I have to put myself in a lot of situations that are in their reality, but that I'm now going in myself to kind of help coax them back into our world, into the 3D. And so in order to do that, one of the things that kind of triggered people, I guess, yesterday was that when I was talking about the acting and the singing and kind of pushing all those buttons of mine and like fears I had, people seemed to think that it was all entertainment value, and that was the only reason that I was doing things. But let me be very clear on this, and let me speak right to the camera. Bullshit. In order for someone to go in and actually help people out of the darkest places and recesses of their mind, that means they have to put themselves in those situations in order for me, health-wise, to not come back with that added pressure and that added negativity. And some of these people have been raped and some of these people have been brutalized and stuff like that. I'm going to have to be able to do it safely. And the only way to do that sometimes is through acting, and it's through putting yourself in situations where you don't actually have to go through the pain. Otherwise, you attract the pain into your life and you experience it on a physical dimension, and that could hurt me. So instead of worrying about whether or not I'm doing something for education value or entertainment value, understand that it has to do more with education and it has to do with a soul's purpose. And so if you don't necessarily understand something, be careful how you phrase things and say things karmically about someone who's actually trying to do something really, really good for humanity, because it has nothing to do with the acting. It has to do with the fact that I have to be able to put myself in these situations without actually attaching myself to that energy. That's really hard to do. And so acting and pushing all of my buttons actually serves to alleviate fear, so that fear can't attach itself to fear, right? So there's nothing for it to grab a hold on and come back out with me. If I do manage to reach a person, I don't want to be stuck with those nightmares and those visions. And the only way to do that is to kind of put up that fourth wall. And so that's what we're talking about, okay? So that should make everybody feel a little bit better. All right. So moving on. So what I wanted to do is kind of break down what it is that a lot of us are talking about as far as the collective consciousness, and what it is that we're referring to as far as ascension, and what it is what is spirituality versus religion. And so the best thing that I find for most people is to go ahead and break down things by definition. And then from that, kind of discuss what it is that we actually are inferring or referring to in use of those words. So beginning first and foremost with religion versus spirituality. So religion, this is per ideas.org, is the best way that they explained it was that religion is a set of principles and beliefs that are shared by a community. It's by a group dynamic. And they follow a specific indoctrination in a belief in something higher than themselves, typically a godhead, right? Whereas spirituality is an individual pursuit where the person is actually more interested above materialistic things. They're more worried about the soul, its purpose, and its peace, and bringing humanity to a different place, but on an individual scale. So religion is group, spirituality is more of an independent thing. However, with the introduction to the collective consciousness, what we're referring to is there is a sentiment in that Jung, was it Jung? Yeah, Jung. That Jung said, where he was referring to the collective unconsciousness, and he was referring to the fact that we have the ability to tap into our ancestral line through our DNA and in an unconscious, a subconscious way, and pull data and information from that setting. But we, in the spiritual circles, people who are more into the individual practice of trying to reconnect with the divine and source, or whatever you want to call it, which we'll define in a minute, are actually looking at it from the standpoint that you don't have to be, it's not unconscious anymore. The movement that the world is making is that we're going towards a collective consciousness where we're aware of our actions and we're actually looking at history, pulling the data from within ourselves or the group, and we're then acting on it based on what we know without bringing the baggage or the karma with us. So that's what we're talking about there. So, by the end of the video, what I'm hoping that we will do is that we will wrap it up with kind of a general consensus. In the first video will be basically the definitions, what we're talking about, and we're going to be talking about it in like a scholastic type setting. I really wish I could do like a Q&A, but it's just not the right time, and I don't really know how to do it. And yesterday, I kind of stepped in it a little bit. I had done something where I tried to empower the community into my prayer and how I go into prayer, which is usually through music, and I forgot that they're copyright infringement stuff, so I got in a little bit of trouble in a very polite way, by the way, because of like monetization and stuff like that. I'm not planning on making any money from any of this. I'm just showing you guys what the process is to stepping into mission and to doing it in a public way. I don't hide shit in my life. It's just not my thing. But in order to do that, you're going to see me make a couple little mistakes here and there. And yesterday was kind of, I should have thought about it a little bit more clearly. It wasn't by Miss Clarkson, of course, because she's like a hero of mine, but it still had the fact that I was using terminology and singing songs that were not mine to use, so I disclosed publicly that was my mistake, my bad. I'm still learning, and which is why we're going through this process together, so that you see what it looks like to step into mission and where you can kind of step into shit, and you got to kind of have, be responsible and be like, hey, I totally get it. So just know that. But the point is that by the end of this whole process, what I want is everybody to be educated and be on the same page, and you don't have to agree with what I say, or you don't have to disagree or anything like that. It's just about presenting to you what the world is going through in a way that makes sense to everybody, and then we can all decide if we're going to argue and bitch and moan about it. Because it's just like there's a lot of divisiveness when we're actually speaking or working towards each other, and we just don't see it yet. So that's kind of the point of this little mission here. So by the end of it, though, of this video in particular, since it's the first introduction that we'll be talking about definitions and kind of setting the structure to what this whole thing is about, the new Earth versus old Earth, the paradigm shifts, the fact that we as a collective consciousness are now consciously moving towards a group dynamic and thinking in terms of like long-term as opposed to short-term, all of that becomes a thing only if we understand it. So I'm going to include at the end of this the names of very, very important, prominent people that you all are going to want to know, that I have no affiliation with the exception of one person directly, and that's because I'm part of her Artesian program, but the others are literally people I've never met, but that meant something to me and that helped me along my path, and I'm not going to sit here and not give them a shout out. If they take offense to it, that's fine, but that's not my baggage. I'm still going to promote them because they're incredibly powerful, wonderful spiritual beings that I think we should all know. Okay, so moving on. I have little notes here because, I was a trainer, so I'm kind of like a little bit nerdy when it comes to this. So let's set the definition for what religion is specifically. So religion is a specific set of organized beliefs and practices usually shared by a community or a group, right? Spirituality is more of an individual practice and has to do with having a sense of peace and purpose. So that's what we already covered. The main thing with that is to understand that spirituality, per the Oxford Dictionary, is the quality of being concerned with the human spirit or soul as opposed to material or physical things. So again, that's very, very simple. It's basically saying that instead of worrying about like money and stuff like that, we're worried about the soul's purpose, what its mission is, and what it's doing here on the planet. How do we then work as a team and operate through that? Now, the example they gave was the shift in priorities allows us to embrace our spirituality in a more profound way. Pretty good, right? Self-explanatory. Religion, defined as the belief in and worship of a superhuman controlling power, especially a personal god or gods. Ideas about the relationship between science and religion. Okay, so now we're getting into the group dynamic. Now, that plays an interesting part because later on we're going to talk about the variation between masters and elders, right? Because there is a crossover here. But for the purpose of this, let's just look at what it is. So spirituality, individual, it's about your soul. It's about your soul's purpose, how it relates to other souls, and what we collectively as that energy do here. Religion is about the practice, I think of it more along the lines of humanity. The human expression is mainly part of religion. It's that part which is all about the human body, physical nature, the laws and bylaws that control what's good and what's bad and all that stuff, which is kind of, we'll get into that in another video, but There's no such thing as good or bad per se. It's either there's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. All things are not, everything is built in balance. So just understand that as we go, but I'm not going to get into it just yet. The main thing is that when we are looking at that terminology, there's nothing opposing each other. So religion is, in the way I'm looking at it, in the way that it kind of comes across here, is that it's very much about the group dynamic and we as a people, but as people, whereas spirituality is accountability as a soul, right? So one's soul, one's physical. Okay. So instead of using God or Allah or any type of divisive name, like instead of naming the puppy, as it were, that's probably not the best way to say that. It probably just triggered a bunch of people, sorry. But instead of naming something that we don't yet understand, why not remove the name and kind of put an office to it, right? Like the Pope is an office. It's not just one individual. Well, I guess in the human terms, it is a person. But in spiritual terms, it's an office. There's an office of clergy and high council and all that stuff around that energy, right? Same thing with God, right? Like people have this thing, God, Allah, whatever you want to call it. They have this association of humanistic qualities to an energy that is above and beyond what we can understand. So I always tell people, don't ever sit there and say that there's an abomination or something is blasphemous, because then you're basically saying God is an idiot and that they made a mistake. Straight up. That's what you're saying. God doesn't make mistakes. There's no mistakes on this planet. There's not an accidental being. Gay people are not an abomination. They are here on purpose. They raise your kids because many men out there decide not to take ownership of their own children. And so a lot of gay people end up teachers or end up advisors or end up in all that. So you see what I'm saying? And women are not secondary citizens. That is the human quality that humans attach to religion. That's not what was part of the scriptures. We all know that. So instead of getting into the divisive nature of this whole arguing back and forth with each other about it, we refer to it in spiritual circles as the divine, right? So the divine is literally a cleric or theologian, or specifically the providence of God. Providence, per Merriam-Webster dictionary, is the God conceived as the power sustaining and guiding human destiny. Interesting, right? So, in those terms, what we're actually saying is that we're housing the house of God as an actual office, the divine universe, the divine whatever, the divine plan, all of which is part of that energy, but doesn't put human characteristics to it. So there's no reason why we should ever say that God hates this or God wouldn't have it on the planet. It wouldn't exist if it didn't serve a purpose to balance something else out, right? So that's what we're talking about. So as far as the collective consciousness goes, per Oxford, let's go with the collective unconsciousness, because that's what we're talking about. So the divine is now pulling our souls into self-awareness, into a master state, where we're going to start working together on a collective global scale in order to combat all of the oppression, all of the anger, all of the hatred, all of the stuff that's weighing everything down heavily in the physical world, and not accounting for all of the spiritual callings and things that we're supposed to be doing, like helping humanity, helping the planet, helping rise above the chaos. Instead of looking at people as oppressors, let's look at people who are just lost. And then there's people that are here on divine mission and spiritual missions that are part of angel armies, are part of God's office. You see what I'm saying? So none of them should be fighting with each other, which is why I get so stressed sometimes with, I used to, now it doesn't trigger me, but it used to bother me that religion had this big issue with people who have gifts from God. Like a psychic is just someone who can see the future. That's not accidental. That's a gift from God to someone. I don't care what they say. It is what it is. But instead of fighting, why not start working towards each other, right? Like working towards each other. So, but it's part of the unconsciousness. So, Jung term, he basically put it as part of the unconscious mind, which is derived from ancestral memory and experience, and is common to all humankind, as distinct from the individual's unconsciousness. Okay, so now we're stepping into this whole conversation about the matrix, essentially, because what he's saying is that we have the ability to tap into the communal ancestral lines through our DNA, through our unconscious state, and pull data from it. Spiritual circles, people who are actually on what they call the path of spiritual enlightenment, are people who actually believe that you can actually pull that information while conscious and pull it forward. And from that, came the empowerment, I should say, to step forward into the light and do something for the betterment of humanity, but from a conscious state. So it's a little bit different from Jung's original intention. Now, one of the things that I think is very important in this process is kind of the question of why would we be changing all of a sudden into this whole thing? Because we can see that the world is just falling apart in many places. The patriarchal structures are being torn down, and it's kind of getting to a point where people are very aware, and it's called the awakening. Everybody's awakened to the fact that things are not how they appear to be. There's so many lies and bullshit and deceit and stuff going on. I posted yesterday on a video about the fact that, we're going through this corona thing, and I don't know if I can say that, but through the beer virus. And it's a virus, and you can't outrun a virus, but here the entire world is panicking and shutting down and making people's rights disappear and stuff like that, and it's all for the betterment of humanity. You see what I'm saying? Like that, even on just a philosophical standpoint or a theological standpoint, you're just like, that doesn't even make sense, like, at all. And so we're starting to see through the facade. I can't wait to get a haircut. As soon as I get a little money, sorry guys, I'm going to get my haircut. It's just very long. It looks okay, but I'm just like, it's like in my face. Anyway, so the point is that why is this all happening? Well, it's part of what's called the ascension. And so many of you may, especially if you're Catholic or heavily religious, you understand that when Christ took accountability for not just his life, but he took the accountability for humanity and died for our sins. He was crucified for his beliefs. Humanity could do better than where we were. And he gave us a better ideology that there was a singular God. Now, we can all argue about why specifically there was one focus that we were supposed to have. Personally, I kind of look at it this way. At the time before this came out, it was like pagan and all this stuff, and nothing against pagans, but it was like a bunch of different gods all over the place. And so everybody was focused in different areas, and nobody was cohesive, and nobody was working towards the same goals, and everybody was kind of doing their own thing. That's fine up until the point where, what? You start to oppress people by all of that variation. Excuse me. It's the truth. So what ended up happening is that Jesus came, stepped forward, and did something called mastery. He was a master, and he mastered the physical world by not just taking accountability for his life, but for the life of humanity. And he paid the ultimate price for it, which is when he ascended. He went from Jesus Christ, crucified, dies, resurrected, and that process where he rose up into becoming Christ is ascension. Before, after, right? That's the belief behind that. So ascension is defined as, per Oxford Languages, the act of rising to an important position or a higher level of consciousness, or unconsciousness for that matter. His ascension to the ranks of pop star was the example they gave. I don't know, I just go with what the dictionary said. The ascent of Christ into heaven on the 40th day after the resurrection. That's what we're focusing on. So, in terms of humanity and the New Age principle behind it is that we believe that humanity is souls. And in my personal definition, when I say souls, we're like queries that the source or God, Allah, whoever you believe in, sends down here in physical incarnate to run a query, to experience what it is to have this, and this happen to you. How would you overcome it? Or how would you fail? How would you do this? How you do that? And so the longer that we keep going and not documenting and sharing and not pooling the data, the more we each individually have to keep going over the same crap left and right. A rape, great. Well, what happens if the rapist is the father? Okay, so then we go through that. Nobody documents, everybody gets really quiet, and so then what happens? Someone else then has to come down and get raped by their father, and we keep doing these fucking things over and over again. And so by pooling our energy towards a consensus, to like a main hub, going back to the matrix, then we're able to actually start making progress. And what happens is the shadow, which is the darker part of us, the queries that are not in divine light, right? Where there's peace, there's chaos. Where there is sexuality, there is non-sexuality. Everything has a balance to it. So where there's a positive, there's a negative. Remember, not evil or good, bad or any of that. Positive or negative, right? And so in order to kind of dissipate more of the negative into a more peaceful, into a more, not utopian, because utopia can't exist. And here's what I say this. And this is a teacher moment for me. If you have a utopia, then you have no free will. Everything runs the same way. There's no freedom. And so where there's no freedom, there is no utopia. It cannot happen because you would literally die of boredom. Personal opinion, mind you, but I mean, come on. Would you want to do the same? We get bored if we have a good day on for a week. Then we start bitching, I don't have anything to do. That's the human condition. So can you imagine a lifetime of it? Oh my God. Oh, sorry, sir. But you know what I mean? Oh, jeez. So we're trying to combat all of this, and we're trying to do it in a way that's proactive. And so ascension basically states that we are as souls stepping up to the plate. And what we do from that point on is that we take accountability for our own lives, for everything that we've agreed to on a soul level to encounter as far as struggle and really harsh things. And that we take accountability for our part in it. And then we also step up and we take accountability for the collective consciousness, meaning the group, the human race, and start working to alleviate some of those strains. And in doing so, face our fears and overcome them and master it. And when you master it, you then ascend from who you are now, and you become who you're meant to be as a soul, and you evolve. And so that's what we refer to as ascension. So the best example that I would give is Christ directly. Christ is a very clear example. Sorry, I have my notes on my phone. It went off. So when he paid for the sins of humanity, he rose. And he rose from Jesus to Christ and became Christ. And went to the Master's realm. So I can already hear the questions. What is the Master's realm? Okay. So there's a separation that I'm going to make that's very clear here, but I'm going to explain why I make it. Masters are those souls like the Buddha, like the Mary Magdalene, for those of you assholes out there who don't acknowledge her. For all of the masters that like, John Just, all of the wonderful people who came before us, Confucius, all of these wonderful beings that were able to not just overcome their obstacle, but do something for humanity and really do it in a powerful way. When they ascend, when they leave after the third initiation, they drop the body and they go up and ascend like Christ did. Okay. In the process, there is something called mastery, and then there's a variation called elder. Okay. Here's the difference I'm going to make, because some people, this is a little bit controversial within spiritual circles, but this is my channel, so I'm going to say what I need to say. Master is someone who is actually able to take accountability for their life, but it's on a personal level. It's a soul, it's an individual soul path, and an individual set of soul circumstances that it overcomes and becomes the master of that destiny. And then they rise. Elders are people who, along the same mountain up to enlightenment, turn around at some point and say, fuck, what about my friends? What about all these people that are still on the mountain? And so what they do is they'll stop what they're doing and start helping people. They go from teacher, they don't go from student to teacher like in mastery. They go from, while still on the mountain, to teacher-student while on the mountain and start helping people along all the way, slowing themselves down to some degree, but that's what their soul is calling them to do, and that is a God command, right? That's a mission. Mastery is self. Elders is communal. And so that's a big variation. Now, here's an important point. Neither one of those paths, even though elders may sound more noble or whatnot, that's an illusion. They're equal. And here's what I'm going to tell you. Jesus Christ is the perfect example of a master. He mastered the physical world, and he did something unbelievably powerful by paying for our sins and being crucified. But he did it in his mastery. He didn't do it as an elder. He did it as a master. And we wouldn't know how to be a master or elder had he not been a master first. Get it? So even though we think that elder is the way to go, only if your soul is called to, the friend I made, with the friend that I know, Jamie, is now very much involved in trying to figure out a way to help the homeless teens, the children of the night. That is someone who is working on an elder type of path. Not better than master, just a different path. So be very clear on that. No one on this planet is better than anyone else, and they never will. Even God would not say that they're better than anybody else, because God is someone who's like a leader. It's one of those leaders that would be like, that's why like people get frustrated in spiritual circles with the idea of God being humanistic, because God doesn't care if you call it Allah or whatever it is, as long as you believe in something, as long as you're being helpful to humanity. Who the fuck cares what you call it? And so that's a human quality. Also, God would never subjugate women, would never make them second-class citizens. The whole Eve thing, that whole little variation that they really. But the original Bible had who? Lilith, who was made equal. What about her? Completely erased, just like Mary Magdalene. So it's a whole bunch of shit that goes down to that. But again, I'm trying to work everybody towards each other, not break you all apart and like everybody starts getting all triggered and pissy with me and all this stuff. You're not going to... Here's the thing. I know the truth of what I know. But I'm not the type of person who won't all of a sudden, if something is revealed to me, not go, oh, well I guess I was wrong. I will say, I am wrong. Get it? When you have dogmatic people who, I'm not wrong, this is absolute, then you're full of shit, because that's not how this works out. If we're all here doing queries as souls, then that means that God himself and or herself is still changing. right? That's called evolution. We're still moving. Otherwise, we would be dead. There would be no purpose to the physical plane. But it's a school, and we're here to learn so that we can bring the data back. So just get used to it. I don't care if you don't like it. I know that sounds very like in your face, but it's like I'm the first to change my mind if something is if truth is revealed to me, like has been for many times. Like I used to believe dogmatically in Catholicism, and then after I got raped by the man who like looked like Jesus Christ, I kind of went, well, and I was 7. Maybe I should probably step up. Well, that and the fact that I got kicked out of catechism when I was about the same age, because I said, wait, this doesn't make sense, because if Adam and Eve were the only 2 people on the planet, then who started having sex with their children first? And I got like, oh my God, I was blasphemous. For that moment on, I got kicked out. It was the whole thing. My mom came down there and she was just cackling, laughing. She was like Roseanne at the moment. She was a very ladylike person. But Miss Claudia was like, oh, I'm not having this fucking shit. And just started cackling. She's like, we're not Catholic anymore. Just walked me out. I'm like, okay, bye. You see what I'm saying? You turn more people off when you do shit like that than you have any idea. Because a smart person, even if you're just remotely kind of intelligent, you're going to be like, wait, God's not into incest. I'm pretty sure of that one. Yes, that's one of the commandments. Okay, yeah, this doesn't make any sense, and so it's kind of like. So I've been stepping in it my whole life. Let me just put it that way. So, the point of it all is, why are we making these transitions? It's because we've become hateful. We become so divided, and we become so anti. We can't even agree that women are equal to men. How is this confusing to anyone? And women can't even agree if they have the right to choose, not whether the actual topic, but they don't even think that they have the right to think about it. That's what you're saying. You're basically saying, I don't have the right to my own opinion. Yet you do. It doesn't matter if you agree to what the end fucking sentiment is. It's still, do you have the right to question? Yes. Okay, then you're on the same fucking page. Like it's like, and I love to. I just heard my guys go, Al, calm down. That's how she is. I have one specific that's a feminine guide who I'm just going to share with you, is what I would call strength and character. That's her role. I have them defined in my head, kind of like that movie Inside Out, because they each have, like, because there's 2 prominent, like, you wouldn't believe who the 2 male energies are, but the point is that they all, sometimes I can just feel like they would look at each other and just be like, get her. Like, you know, like that moment, but she's super, man. This is like a tough guide. But she's the one who just said this. She's like, Al, calm yourself. And I can feel it. Like, it's so funny. If you're spiritual or psychic, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Anyway, that's the other thing. Okay. So when we're actually going through this, so the biggest divisive thing that people use against us, or the energies use in general to kind of corrupt the system, is to make people not understand the truth that's actually at play by feeding on people's fears and insecurities. And we're seeing this big major right now with the whole virus, because of the fact that it's like feeding on people's fear of death. And it's like, yeah, but you have a higher chance of getting in a car accident every day you go to work, but you don't stop driving. You don't stop the entire country and say you can't drive it. You know what I mean? But I'm not going to get into all that. But they feed on fear, and they feed on that shit. And so one of the biggest things that we can do is we start to face our fears. And so ascension is that process. It's where you go through the initiations of facing your greatest fear. Like for me, it was my mom's death. Well, my mom died when I was 25, so that went real quick. Then it was being left destitute. I ended up having to do an entire year mission in homelessness with no money, no resources, no nothing, and I did it. And I'm like, and saying on camera, I did that yesterday. And then what was the other one? I have to do a monologue tomorrow, or I'm going to try to do it by tomorrow, but they said I didn't have to do it till Saturday. And I picked something called The Garden. It's this really cool, like, one-page thing. I haven't acted in 22 years, so, but I'm going to do it. I did the extra work, but I had never really realized that all of this is coming together now. But you know, when you do things and you're younger and you just say, oh, this will be fun, and then later on you're like, oh, son of a bitch, there's a fucking point to all this. It was part of the plan. Anyway, okay, so I'm getting off on a tangent. But as you can see, I totally get into teaching this stuff because it's like just something that I'm really, really passionate about. But the main thing is that when you are feeling fear or restrictive, that's not faith. That's not spirituality. That is suppression. That's oppression. What did I say yesterday? Faith is about building you up. It's about breaking free of the chains. It's about moving you past your fears. It's about expanding your heart, expanding your world, and you stepping into your power, right? Anything that doesn't do that is not God. That is a human thing, right? Oppression, saying that you have to pray to this person, you have to do this, you have to do that, doesn't make sense logically because God does not suffer the ego. That is a human quality. That's how you know. why would God care? God created everything. Do you really think he cares if you fucking call it like Nancy Drew? Like, it doesn't fucking matter. Anyway, but I'm not gonna, again, and the funny part is, like, I always say that I don't get triggered, because a trigger, let me just say that since we're talking about definition, a trigger is an unexpected response to something that someone says to you that makes you react either positively or negatively. But the thing is, like, trigger typically, in my opinion, is something negative. It makes you react in anger. Now, there's a difference between anger and passion, right? When you know something, you can't unknow it. But I can't push that on other people. So if I don't sound passionate about it, then why am I saying it? You see how that's like a little blendy way to like kind of fuck with your head a little bit sometimes? It's like, oh, well, why are you getting triggered? Don't try to control me, sweetheart. A trigger is an unexpected response. Do you see the control in my eyes? Now, this is control. This is me being passionate. But that goes back to, you have to know yourself, to that own self be true. Because you're going to have a lot of people who mean well, but that are on different levels and different journeys and don't see the world the way that you see it, because they're not meant to. That's not their journey. I go into the shadows of hell. I go in and out of it all the time. I get exposed to people who've been raped. I get exposed to people that have been really brutalized. And so that's where the acting comes in, is that now I have to be able to step into those roles, get into their mindset, and really explore what that would be like without taking that energy back out. See? Everybody's got their own thing, and they told me what I've mastered, and I started almost crying. They're like, you mastered sorrow, and I was like, oh, and for some reason it just boom, my heart went, oh, and but it helped me release. I'm fucking laughing right now, my guys. It helped me release, because it was like I couldn't quantify what it was that I had mastered, because everybody talks about, oh, I'm a master, and I'm like, then why are you still here? If you're a master, you should be helping us, ascend, go do something, like, why are you? And then I realized that some masters are becoming elders, or becoming angels, and so they're getting their angel wings, so they stick around and they do things, but I didn't understand what mine was, until they said, you've mastered sorrow, and I was like, why did I agree to that? And the divine goes, I don't know. That's just who you are. And I was like, okay, that works for me. Anyway, so everybody has their own mission in this world. Now, here's what gets good. In the world that we live in, there are masters that I have come into contact with, and I'm going to defer this next section over to one of them. And I don't know if he's going to like that I'm associated with him in this way, but his name is Mr. Meter, and it's William Meter, and he talks about the esoteric theosophy, and he does the most sublime teaching of it in a way that's so easy to get, like you can see in my eyes. This man is gifted. His tone, his presentation, he's a master. And so I would refer you now to that section to understand the esoteric faith and why that is a theosophy as opposed to a faith, and what the separation is between religion and spirituality that we've already talked about. Thank you. See, there's a variation. And so the point is that I'm going to let you guys do this, because you're a seeker. We're called seekers, people who are on a spiritual path of individuation that are going towards this collective union and to becoming more cohesive and seeing a vision for all of us as humanity and saving humanity for itself. You go through this process called enlightenment, and you have to go through esoteric theosophy. But instead of me trying to explain something that another master has already done, I'm going to refer you right over to him. And specifically, I have to pull it back up because you know how phones are. What is the one that I want you guys to look at? I think it was called The Spiritual Purpose. It's William Meter talking about the spiritual. Hold on, right here. Revealing the soul's intention. Yeah, go to that one. That was one of my favorite. There's like a plethora of shit that's really fucking awesome by Mr. Meter, who's incredibly good looking too, which I thought was really funny, because like the entire time I was looking at him, I was like, yeah, how you doing? And of course I was actually listening to what he's saying, and then I was like lost. It became secondary because he's brilliant, right? But he talks about all of it. He talks about your soul. He talks about the 7 rays of light. He talks about all of the things that you need to know about the esoteric theosophy, and he's a master. So here's what I'm going to say. I'm not going to get into all of that until you guys do your own little homework and your own little research, and you go and you study him and you study his work, because I always give credit to masters that deserve credit, which is why at the end of this I'm going to list all the people that I'm going to list. But anyway, the moral story is, if you want to know about esoteric theosophy and you want to know about masters and what it is to be a master and what ascension is and all of that, you're going to go see Mr. Meter now. I'm going to take a break. Okay, back. All right, moving on. So, it's up to you to do the research. So now that you guys have gone and you've gone to see Mr. Meter, let's move on. The point is that there are no accidents, and all things have reason, right? Everything that works within our reality has a purpose, and you have a purpose, and you're on mission to do these things. And so once you start to actually encounter all of your problems and your like insecurities and your gripes and these buttons that you have, and you alleviate them, you master the physical world. So what can you do? You turn and help people. You have a choice, actually. You go through the initiations, but again, Mr. Meter will explain all of that. I'm just going to refer you to him. Now, the more that you work on your own path, the more service you provide to the race. It is of my personal belief that each horrible thing that we each survive of life, or in bad luck that we encounter, that we are dissipating the shadow side of humanity. And what I mean by that is that all things come in balance. I've said this before. I'm not going to harp on it again. But the point is that the more that we confront them, the less it needs to happen. There's no query that follows. At some point, the query ends, and Source or God, Allah, whoever you believe in, goes, okay, got it. We no longer have to worry about that rape thing. We have gone through every fucking path as possible, and I don't like it. Whatever it is, like I'm making a little bit light of it, but you see what I'm saying. So when that all happens, all the queries in the physical world that are exploring highs and lows that come with life, so as to continually grow and learn. Remember, God is a consciousness, just like anything else. We exist within it. I always say that we're the vessels. So even though we're queries, we're like the blood, the brain cells. And that we're actually functioning within the divine, and we're doing all of these wonderful queries. And so it makes it that much easier to deal with things when they're really shitty. Like, trust me, Master of Sorrow, when it comes to sorrow, now I can look into sorrow, and I don't see sorrow anymore. I see empowerment. Rape, because of the rape. When I was molested, I don't see it as I will never be okay with anybody touching a child, which is one of the reasons why child trafficking and the rape of children is going to be such a major thing coming forward. And a lot of people are not going to like the karmic retribution that's coming. But that's not the place nor the time right now. The point is that I can look at it and I can go into that and help like a child who's lost and has been disconnected, being raped by their father or whatnot, and pull them back out. Because I've been there, right? Or I can go into anybody who's been through deep sorrow at the loss of someone when they were really young and help them guide that soul fragment back out. Because we leave things behind. Remember that. We're souls. We're energy. So energy can split itself off. I used to think of it like that. It was like so shocking, something that's so traumatic that it makes you like leave a little bit of yourself behind. But I realize it's not that. It's that in order for your soul to graduate and finally evolve out of this little school of life, you have to have all your bits and pieces with you. And so you leave it. It's almost like you anchor on purpose. Like, I'm going to finish this fucking topic. I just can't do it right now. And so you drop a little piece of yourself. Because as you notice further down the line, as I teach more and more, you're going to find that you do have to go back and you have to pick up those pieces. So you eventually always have to confront everything. Everything. So, mastery. The definition of mastery. It's a comprehensive knowledge or skill in a subject or accomplishment. She played with some mastery. My sister, for example, my soul sister, she is a flutist. She's a master. Anyway, or control or superiority over someone or something. Now, here's where it gets interesting. So, there's a thing, a law that exists. It's called as above, so below. I was supposed to do it in only an hour, but we're getting close here. Okay. So, anyway, so with a master, I want you guys to understand that mastery has a bona fide success as above, meaning a high-end achieving aspect to it that's really powerful, empowering, and that's when you master the physical world. But also, there is a lower extension of it, which is called master, which is someone who owns people or tries to own slaves. Yeah, There's a thin line right there. And here's the thing. You don't own anybody on this fucking planet. You don't even really own yourself. You are gifted a temporary pass to exist in this world on God's terms. And he can pull that little fucking card any point he wants and be like, yeah, no, that's not what we are supposed to be doing. Which a lot of people are finding out the hard way. Not making light of what's going on. I totally just triggered more people. I trigger a lot of people. but I do it in a way that I'm trying to be very affirming and not trying to dismantle people, because some people inadvertently trigger, meaning that they make people react to things and statements that are meant to awaken them, but it's not always in the best way. I try to be very cautious of it, and when I hear myself trigger and I can feel it, you feel it at this point. And so you just stop and you acknowledge, hey, I didn't mean to trigger you, but you need to snap out of it. Like, I don't know what else to tell you, but it's not my responsibility to help you help you understand why you're feeling that way. But I'm here to tell you, I didn't mean it to be a negative. I'm just trying to get you to see the world from a different lens, because at some point, no matter who you are, no matter how dogmatic you are, you're going to have to face God. And you're going to have to see it from all angles. I'm just putting that out there. So I did go over the masters and elders and separation to them, and why there's none better than the other, so let's move past that. The thing to remember with that is that my soul is very, very loving, and I've been hurt a lot in my life, and that was part of the plan, but part of my journey was to make sure that I never altered that. So I used to get in a lot of trouble with people, like that I would get my heart broken or smashed or whatnot, and I would be like devastated and stuff. And everybody would always put this pressure on me to conform or to change or to be tougher, blah, blah. But that's not who I was meant to be. My path was to, and this is when you know yourself, till I know yourself be true. I was to preserve that, because that's the energy that's going to be needed to find the loving, peaceful people in my mission now that I've stepped into my role, right? And this role keeps expanding, let me just tell you. Oh, by the way, shout out to my aunt. You made an appearance for the first time in, I don't know, like 20 years in one of my dreams. So you look good, girl. Congratulations. So, anyway, back to what I was talking about. This is where I wish I had I put it even in a note here. I wish I had the ability to Q&A right now, because I know there's so many questions. So, but the first major questions I'm going to get is on the one about that I just explained about the variation between the two, and neither one is bigger or better than the other, mastery or elder. But the second question I get the most would be wanting to know more about what the world or the realm of masters are, aside from the esoteric philosophy that Mr. Meter would cover. And so for that, now I'm going to give you a straight up person that you're going to go to and check out. All of this, by the way, masters are very interesting people. They have public information. Just going to put that out there. I'm not charging for any of this. Okay? And a lot of the people that you're going to see that I personally follow don't charge. There's a monetization point. Everybody has to make some money at some point. I'm not there yet, because I'm all about like information, teach. And so there will come a point where the divine is walking me towards that. But until I get that, I'm not that person. But all of these people that I'm going to say at the end of this literally give most of their information for free. That's mastery, baby. But they do have a point where they're not stupid either. I'm the only one that's running around going, I just want to teach. Okay. So, and a lot of people may not agree with me, and that's fine. Bring it on. Oh, by the way, they showed me what's coming my way, and I'm just like, okay, I get this, fine. I can't. I'm not going to sit there and be afraid of what people are going to do. This whole idea of persecution for religious freedom, how do you think this country, America, came to be? By people being afraid? Fuck that shit. I'm from New Orleans. No. I'm going to step right into my power, and we're going to go all the way with this motherfucking baton I'm being handed. Let me just tell you. And they can do what they need to do. At the end of the day, they will end up having to face their own deal. It's not my place. Okay. Having said that, that's the mission, by the way, is to self-empower yourself to get over these fears, guys. Like, okay, so people don't like you. And? What are you, in high school? Why does that matter? Even your family, you're just like, I don't even like you when we were growing up together. Like, I'm surprised we're even fucking related. So what, now I'm going to suppress my beliefs and stuff? See, now I get all preachy, so I'm going to just back up. I'm sending you over to Dolores Cannon. Okay, now, Dolores Cannon is a master who I don't know if she would ever say master, but she's very, very gifted. And she speaks about what happens, and it's actually the video that I'm going to send you over. It's called Life After Death. And it's a series, and I want you guys to just check it out. Right? You're the seeker. I'm not going to sit here and hold your hand or hold your dick while you do it. You're going to do it yourself. But it's called Life After Death. And then there's one especially that I want you guys to focus on called The New Earth. Okay. Just like Mr. Meter, there are gifts and people that are gifts. People. Puta was, really? There are people out there who are equally, if not more gifted than we could ever be. And they have insight that a lot of people try to poke holes at, but they can't, and they just keep getting better and better and better. This is the real bitch. She's like the shit. Older lady, I probably wouldn't appreciate me referring to it that way, but I'm gonna be me. Go check this out. It'll explain to you. I'm just going to preface it. It's going to explain to you what happens in the layers to death. It depends on where your soul's on its journey and its own ascension, and where it's going to go, and how that plays out. And so you're going to want to know that before we continue on. And then the other thing is the new earth, and why all of this is happening now to the collective, and why everything seems to be falling apart. So another break here, and I'm going to have some soda and maybe a banana. And when you guys come back, I will probably be done eating. All right, bye. I think I'm not editing this shit. Oh, hi. Okay, back. So, all of you went to go see the Dolores Cannon's work. And as you can see, I'm not kidding about her being the shit, right? Okay. So, now that you're back. So, as you can see from what she talks about, there's a space and time where you're going to go, depending on where your soul's at, and you're either going to go in, and you're going to review with your peers, other souls that are like you, and you're basically going to affirm whether or not you passed this grade in school. And then if you didn't, you're going to come back, but you normally get a break and you go through assessment. Okay, then there's a middle one, which I thought was really fascinating that she talks about. I haven't visited this place, I guess, in a very long time. I knew the first one, I knew the third one, but I didn't know the middle one. I couldn't remember it. Y'all, it's been a long time since I've incarnated. I'm just saying, it's been a fucking long time. Where was I? Ah, yes, that's why we have notes. So the point is that the third layer, so you go to the first one, it's kind of like assessment, blah blah blah. The middle layer is kind of fascinating because that's where you have little neighborhoods and stuff in heaven, and you're all that stuff. The third layer, that's your question. You wanted to know about what happens in the realm of the masters and elders. Well, there is an academy, if you will, again, as above, so below. If we understand life to be a set of experiences that are here to teach us, then we are actually in school, getting our master's degree or getting a PhD, depending on where your soul's at. The point is that as above, so below. So if there's a school here, then obviously there's a school up there. And so what is this school that we're being taught? Well, we're being taught it's called the ability to co-create with the divine. That's the end result, in my opinion. This is not her work, this is my work, but her work tells all about the school and stuff like that, which I thought was badass. So, in order to co-create, you would have to be able to literally have worked your path and learned every physical nuance and everything in life in order to be able to wield that power effectively. Because anything that you change in creation affects, like a domino effect, a bunch of other stuff. But how would you know that unless you were put through an academy, an accelerated program that makes you literally responsible for every fucking thing that you do? Hence why we have the physical world. That's why we're here. Hi, boom, reality trigger. Oh shit, that makes sense. Yeah. It's a heavy one, but it's a really affirming one, but it does make sense because you're just like, oh, well, that makes sense because, we hear her and other people talk about it. You start here as a mineral or and then you work your way to plant, and then you become an animal, and then you work through the animal kingdom, and then you become a human. And what are you gaining? Free will, freedom. You're gaining in minutia, little steps. You're gaining the ability to create your own freedom. And so your soul is learning the physical ramifications. A weight has been added to it in us that shows it whenever it fails, which ultimately can even be death because of bad choices. And so that's teaching. You are teaching your souls how to self-actualize. And so that's what we're doing. And so isn't that kind of cool? So it makes it so much easier because then you get sometimes you just keep fucking up and you're just like, why do I keep how does Natalie put it over there, Tegan? She goes, some people have to touch the stove 12 times, others of us have to touch it 32 times. I do it all the time. And I'm the same kid who rules when I first incarnated, I must have been on point because my mom would be like, don't run into the street, and I would look at the car passing. I would look at my body and I go, check. Meanwhile, my dorky friend next to me would run into the street, get hit by a car, and I'd be like, you stupid motherfucker. T. That was just how I was, you know what I mean? And then, of course, now as an adult, I'm like, no. Well, I mean, I used to be. Now that I'm a little bit more mature, but I used to walk up to shit and be like, oh, really? You so big and bad, you gonna hurt me? And then, they hurt me. Yeah. I can own it. Oh, the ponytail's back. Yeah, I can't wait to get this fucking haircut. Okay, so That's what the school is. So as you are going and navigating through your life, you're going to find that some souls karmically have good karmic reward cycles where their entire life is blessed. Who would I say is probably a very good soul? Katy Perry. So I'm going to leave that there for now. Someone who is incredibly powerful, who you guys don't know who she is. I don't know if she, which I'm sure she knows who she is, as far as incarnation. But I adore her. Selena Gomez, another perfect example. Souls that are genuine and are not, they don't change who they are. If anything, they always stay a little uncomfortable with it, but they've learned to empower themselves. It's specifically like with Katy Perry. Okay. The girl that I just did her song. I got in a little bit of trouble for it. People Like Us. Another incredibly powerful soul that I just can't get enough of. I don't know, I can't think of her name right now. My guides are just totally giggling about something. They're gossiping about me. Kidding. I get a little dorky when I lecture. I'm sorry, guys. Like, I just do. Like, if you think that I enjoy hearing my own voice, I'm just like, no. Anyway, moral story is, so that's what we're doing. So as you get to these reward cycles, that means that your soul has actually learned to navigate the course of humanity effectively to where you get to a point where you finally get to either release life in a very positive, affluent, very empowered dynamic where you learn quickly from your mistakes and you adjust like that and you bounce back and then you teach or you do whatever you need to do. The reverse of that is some souls who are here like Master like Sorrow go longer stretches with a lot more shit happening to them until the point where they reach a certain point where the High Council says he gets his PhD. What are we going to do with him? See, this is what they're doing with me, and I'm taking it. And there's incredible people who are also stepping up. This is such an important time, guys. If you guys are not spiritual yet, you need to get into this because it's not just about you, it's about humanity. And we're at this precipice right now where the 144 is about to be known. I can't say anything more on that. Okay. Oh, I just got a little proverbial slap for that one. Sorry. Yeah. Anyway, moral stories. So that's what you're doing. So as you navigate, so the way you've learned is the responsibility and accountability for each action that you take upon this plane. And with that knowledge, you can then what? Be free to create. So as we gain more freedom and free will, in truth, instead of it feeling like a dream or like a facade, you actually get to experience it in this world, letting your soul know, oh, hey, I'm graduating. All right. And then what is it now? Next life cycle, they don't have to incarnate again. They can actually go and create and go be part of the soul or whatever fucking clan it is. Whatever, you know. Oh, I just triggered people with clan. I didn't mean it that way. I meant like a tribe, soul tribe. Okay. So that's what we were talking about with this whole academy and all of this stuff. So you're getting your master and all that stuff. So when we're talking about the new earth and the old earth paradigm that she was talking about, which is the next phase of the conversation, and I'm probably going to have to end there. I thought I had more time, but I just started talking about other stuff. Y'all should see me when I lecture. Oh, I'm a riot. Masters have this thing, and it's so funny that I'm actually okay with Master now, but it's because of the fact that they said sorrow and my heart fell apart, and I was like, oh. It was like, so, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll take it. That was such a dork. Okay. Masters get lost in their conversation because I can talk about this shit endlessly, and so can all of them. I'm a newbie compared to like Mr. Meter and fucking Dolores Cannon. Anyway, so the new Earth versus old Earth. So she talks about it very clearly. It's basically the polarity split between the two. The new Earth is this. It's going to be all of those who are part of the 144. These are the souls that are going to evolve and actually are willing to change and to meet the new vibration, because everything is a frequency. Everybody should know that by now. Everything is affected by sound and vibration, period. That's why I say sound affects you very clearly, is because it can create, it's a vibration. And so it's what we see physically. Like if you ever don't believe me, leave your light on and kind of just stare off into just blank while the light's like usually above you. Turn the light off. Those little specks, it's pitch black. Why do you see those specks? Frequency. Anyway, back on. So they're going to be able to adjust. So the new Earth is going to have basically all of the souls that are ascending. These are souls that are willing to meet the new frequency, which is higher pace. Your heart goes a lot faster. Everything's quicker. Everything's moving at a much To those of you who stay in the old earth, who just are dogmatic, don't want to change, they say that they know everything, that no, we're crazy, we're wrong, all this stuff. Like she says, there's going to come a moment, which in theology, in religion, is the moment that you guys fear the worst. Is the moment when the rest of us suddenly disappear. And all of you know what happens at that point. See, so, and that's the problem that we're having right now, is that we can't make you believe anything. It's your ultimate journey. At the end of this lifetime, whichever, whether you stay in old earth or new earth, you are the only soul that is going to be in front of that board. And this is not like a normal life cycle where this is it. This incarnation, there's so much hatred and so much bigotry and so much homophobia, and there's all this fucking oppression, and these people are trying to control people, and no one's allowed to breathe, no one's allowed to dream, no, you can't recycle anymore, you can't do this, you can't do that. It's so, when you put something that tightly, inevitably it must do what? New Big Bang. That's where you guys want to go. That's where we're going. Except if you're on the new Earth. So, right now the planet is they're superimposed on each other. And those of us who are on a different vibration, you can tell, because it's like, you see less and less of us, but when you see of us, it's more to the point, on point, and very big, like very changes, like huge changes, transformations that are going on, boom, 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 like big world stuff. And so it's not something they can fake. It's not something that you can't look at me and go over my trajectory over the past, 7 years on YouTube and, fucking 2 years on articles on. You can't say that you don't see the progression. But there's just a massive thing that just went, motherfucker, what happened to him? Bam. Those are the 144. And so I call them, and this is where I don't know if I should say this, but I guess since we're already talking about it, in my opinion, Arevalo's opinion, the 144 is like a delegate. It's like a delegate group. They are representative of a quota that we're supposed to hit in order for us as a collective to ascend as a group, for everybody to go. Right? Because there's coming a point where the two will split, like two atoms will go boop, and all of you will just suddenly see all of us die or disappear. And you're going to be like, oh my God, where'd they go? And we're going to look at you and be like, oh shit. Okay. Good luck. Y'all want to go fishing? You want to go fishing? I'm going to go fishing. You cannot, by the point that this happens, just know that that's part of the ascension, is to disconnect from the physical world and be able to leave things behind. People, situations, you sound like a cold-hearted bitch. No. You sound like an adult. You sound like somebody who took accountability and is doing everything that you can in your life to expose the truth to other people and present it in a way that makes them understand the severity of what's going on. From this point on, I was very clear with the divine. I go, at some point, I'm just going to be like, I've done all I can. And that is the accountability for humanity. Because I'm not going to stop. Like I said, I have my mission, I've got my tasks, I've got everything I need to do, but I'm not going to stop until I accomplish what But at some point, I have to do exactly what is the whole training I'm going through, which is to just let it go. And so do the others. And it's not that we're being cold. It's that how far, what did my friend Mr. Eddie say? You can go, you can lead a dead horse to water, but you can't keep the horse is not going to drink. And at that point, when I'm going to die with the fucking horse that won't drink, he's dead. What am I doing? That's what we're all up against. And it's hard because of the fact that your friends aren't all making it. Your family's not all going to make it. And that's why I always tell people, I'm like, I know that this looks really traumatic to everybody right now, that there are a lot of really beautiful older souls that are leaving our planet, but they're leaving in time. They're not going to be here for the event. If they can't do the adjustment, if they can't make it, isn't it more loving on God's behalf and on the holies and the high council to have them just be at peace? As opposed to what's going to happen when we go poop. It's called the fucking rapture for a reason, people. I mean, like, I know that we're selfish, but how selfish do you want to fucking be? You want your grandma and grandpa to sit there and go through it? You You can go through it. You have every opportunity to get your shit together and to get this going and start making a real good deal with, the divine, not the devil. Oh, I'm going to practice this religion because they sacrifice children and rape them. Like, ew. But I'm the crazy one. I'm the sacrilegious one. I'm not even going to worry about it. Like, look at me. I'm just like, okay, that's how you want to go? But there are souls here on our planet who are so older, and they're just like our grandma and grandpa, and they're tired. They've been working their ass off, trying to do the best that they can fucking do on this fucking hell at times place. And you have all these little young people who are all money hungry and all like, they don't want to save the planet. They think that they can just jump off ship and go someplace else. Like the galaxy's going to be like, yeah, we're going to let you do that. You ain't going nowhere unless you get your shit together. And so you can't really necessarily say that until you get to a place where you take accountability and you're just like, I'm going to get hell no matter what, but I'm going to get hell for the right reason. I'm going to wake my fucking friends up and be like, hey, this is what's going on. You don't have to believe me, but you need to start figuring out what your square root's going to be. What is your path here? Because at some point, they're going to make the decision for you, and then everybody's going to be like, I didn't know. Oh, you know. And you can look right in my eyes and know it. And so it kind of sucks. But I look at the people who are leaving as blessed. They get to go quietly, not violently, not with meteors hitting the planet, not with, all of this stuff. And I mean, yeah, so I may be witness to it. But there's a big difference between being part of the chosen to bear witness than to experience it. And if you don't understand the variation between that, then I suggest that you start studying. Because there's a big difference between experiencing the rapture and witnessing the rapture. That's it for me for lesson 1. I'll come back to you guys. I know it's kind of heavy note. Oh no, I wanted to talk about some good stuff. Okay, so I know it's a heavy note. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry, not sorry. It's kind of it needed to be said, and I guess it's best to say it in the first. Oh my God, she's like, leave it. Okay, so I wanted to give a shout out to some very important people that have helped me along the way. And one of the things about Ascension is that you don't ever do this by yourself, especially on something called a collective mission. And so as all of us step into our missions and into our purpose and into our path, and we're being handed these different opportunities, we are seeing each other for the first time verified. And so I'm going to give a big old shout out to a couple of them. First and foremost is the queen who started this all. Her name is Manna, M-A-N-N-A. She's no longer on YouTube. Angelina Bonds, who is by far my saving grace, and I will always be indebted to her. I know that she's no longer on YouTube, but I know she watches. So to you, my dear, the Cancerian, with all my love and respect, I can't wait to read more on your blogs and all your stuff. I know that you're on your own mission right now, and I think that's amazing. I just wanted to let you know that you started it all for me. Who then recommended my next person on the list, which her name is San, S-A-N, Tarot, and has a channel here on YouTube who's exceptionally gifted, earthly kind of powerhouse woman. And I'm going to say this, you don't have to agree to psychics, you don't have to agree to tarot, you don't have to, God will talk to you however you want to be spoken to, but at the end of the day, don't miss the conversation because you're blinded by what you think or by what other people tell you. You better find out for yourself. Just saying, because I never would have thought, but Sans Tarot. Okay. Next are two women who I found, both from Canada, could not be more fucking opposite of each other if they tried. One is Queen Cup, who is a powerhouse, in your face. She's who got me through my dark night of the soul, because she's the type who would say, Cancer, what the fuck are you doing? like get in my face and stuff. And it was like, we never had met me. I've never met these people, by the way. But she saved my butt. And so Queen Cup, she has incredible frankincense, I believe she's doing right now, which is so yummy. I can't do it because I'm asthmatic, but I love the smell of it. As soon as I get a little money, I'm going to buy some. But I can't, burn it all the time because I'm trying to be a singer. Right. No. I want to be able to carry a tune because to me it's like a chakra thing. If I can carry a tune, then my chakras are in alignment. That's all I'm going to say. Also in Canada, there is Awakening to Spirit, who couldn't be more polar opposite of Queen Cup, who is so gentle and loving, and she's in the middle of moving also. There's a lot of us that are being transitioned. A lot of us in the past month, for some reason, have all been just shaken out, everything can come down, and all of a sudden, oh, I guess we're moving. Okay, well, she's one of them. And interestingly, both her and Sand have had to pull back off the channels. There's no such thing as coincidence. Anyway, bygones. So those are the two from Ken. Next up is Water Star Vibes. I do not know this woman's name, but I'm telling you, this chick is the real deal. I saw something last night that she posted up there, and she's the one who reminded me of the 144, because I had gotten a download about the 144 and about something that's a personal thing that only a certain group of people will understand. But you got, the information that we got, and it was just kind of random, and I didn't connect it until Water Star Vibe mentioned it in a video, and I went, oh my god, I'm not crazy. Okay, so anyway, hey, shout out to her. Did a fucking rap song that is the shit, like really just amazing. And she was talking about it. That's how I caught it. This whole why I was thinking of her last night was because of the fact that I had watched the rap video again, and I thought it was really good, right? And so then she was talking about it in a video she just posted. So shout out to her. She's someone that you want to know. Just gonna put that out there. And then there's my queen. Her name is Natalie, Natale, 2 E's. Who runs the Artigan, which I am in AIT. I was the class that just had to do a break in between because everything the adjustment happened, the change is happening, and so I'm one of hers. So that's the only one that I have an actual attachment to is Natalie, and Natalie is what I would call my sister soul. And the reason I say that is because she sometimes pisses me off, which is probably a good thing, but it's in a way that's like brother sisterly, and it's kind of weird because we don't know each other in a personal dynamic. But she knows when I enter space. I'm just gonna put it that way. I don't know if she knows it's me per se, although if she ever sees it, she'll identify the frequency. But she knows my story. I'll put it that way. Anyway, she's been a very instrumental guide. She has incredibly amazing classes on psychics. She's saving the world. That's her mission. And I know that sounds trite to some of you, but all things considered and the way that the world's going, I wouldn't make fun of anybody right now. But she is Madam President, and I adore her and love her, so please go check her out. It's theartigan.com. She also has what's the other channel called? It starts with a P. You know, the one that everybody guys, yeah, that one. And then who else? The boys. Okay, so there's two men that have really stood out in my journey. Well, aside from Mr. Meter, one is probably the powerhouse that I just could not get enough of. This man has a way of taking spirituality and science and saying it in such a matter-of-fact way that just breaks all barriers and does it in a way that makes sense logically and that hits all the right spots. I mean, like if he was a dildo, he'd be the rabbit. Like he just does everything for me. And I'm sure he's not going to like this attachment to me now. Leo over at actualize.org. I have a thing with Leos, and I think it's because I'm a Cancer Moon Leo rising, but there's something specific with Leo energy that I am being pulled towards, and so it's kind of funny that both of them seem to have Leo somehow in them. Leo at actualize.org. He's the one who taught me about spiral dynamics, and I actually did try to reach out to him once. I think I flirted with him because I'm a slut. I wasn't. I'm still celibate. You know how the divine is. I've been working on me, so I haven't had time for anybody else. But anyway, so I kind of flirted with him. But my question was very proactively what happens when we start to build a turquoise? If you understand spiral dynamics, you understand that we have now surpassed yellow or gold, and we are now heading towards turquoise. And so I was very fascinated with the topic, but it's really hard to get a hold of him, and it's not like he wants to. Anyway, he's a very private person, so I'm going to leave that there. But if you want to know some shit, that's the way to go. And he has some really far out, really progressive ways of talking about some topics that you guys are going to love. I'm really over time. Next one is David Palmer over at the Leo King. He and Anne, I believe her name is, yes, have an incredible network that they're building, and I have tried to reach them, I will say that, but I don't have any affiliation to them. And the thing that I like about him is that he did something that Divine is asking a lot of us to do, which is to combine fields with spirituality as a focal, and then whatever their gift is that they are masters of, and he is astrologically speaking a master. And so, and then Amy is his business partner, and they have an incredible network they're building over there. So if you get a chance and you want to know about astrology, and you want to know about how you can combine those two things, David is probably the best way to go, and his whole team over there is pretty amazing. I actually would have liked to work with them, but they just have a network, and they have an understanding of the divine that is truth. and I can't get enough of that. Which brings me to my girl, existential shift, Morgaine. Now, the difference between, like, let's say for me in my head, between Morgaine and the others, is I would marry Morgaine if I was straight. She's the one who got in my face kind of yesterday because I went to go see the Secret 13. I'm one of her Secret 13s. And so she kind of was a little bit like, oh, I guess I have to be the Queen of Swords right now. Well, I'm just being like this because you need it. And so instead of me taking it the wrong way, I actually was empowered by the conversation. And she's incredibly gifted and centered. And she always knows who she's talking to. And I always get the impression that she knows when you're in the room. I don't know her again. But I just think that you guys would be really benefited if you go and check her out. And then, of course, there is my sweet pea that I just love and adore. Her name is Patricia1111, who I just can't get enough of. And one of the most gentle-hearted people I've ever come across in my life, who is exceptionally gifted at her craft. Say hi to Mom for me. I know that we that she listens to us and stuff. Not me in particular, but she likes to hear from the community. So those are the people that I think you guys should all know. And if you're new to all this, and last but not least, there are some superstars that I think you guys should really, really take a second gander at. First is Madonna. I never realized how powerful Madonna was and who she was until recently, and now that I've seen it, I can't unknow it, and I'm just going to say that I love you, Madge. Tyler Perry is the next one. I don't know if you guys know his story, but if you study his story enough, you will kind of see a lot of mastery type things that he has done for his life, and I can't take my hat off enough for him. I will probably never meet any of these people, but I'm just putting their names out there because you really do need to know them. And then the queen, another queen I should say, Katy Perry. Now, Katy Perry is someone who, if you ever actually want to become enlightened, why don't you just go through the words to her songs and follow what your life was like at the time, and you will see what mastery can look like, even if someone is not awakened. I'm sure she is, I mean, considering that we have similar paths. But just know that. I don't know why I'm distracted by my own eye right now. That's really weird. And then last but not least is Miss Oprah Winfrey, who is the epitome of someone who actually has mastered the world of media. And I don't think she necessarily always knew what she was doing, but I just think that her truth was the truth. And that's pretty much it. That's who I think I'm going to include for this particular segment. Special shout out to all of you who have lately been supporting me and reading and or looking at my stuff. I'm going to be back on task. Oh, that's what I want to say. So it's called The Garden. I'm doing a scene from The Garden either tomorrow or on Saturday, and I'm going to put it out like a monologue that I'm doing. And again, it's to get more into that ability to step in and out of character so that I can help people come back from the darkness. That's my mission. And it's going to be done somehow on camera somewhere. That media part of it is something new, and I'm still getting used to it. But I realized that what I'm getting used to isn't the fact that I'm afraid of it. It's that I was concerned with other people's opinion. And I realized that your opinion, not you, but that opinions are like assholes, all of them. Vary and are usually hairy and stinky, and I don't really need to worry about it. That I just need to worry about my path. And so my truth comes across no matter what, because you can't lie about what your soul's here to do. And so I hope that this starts the conversation. If you guys have any questions, please Q&A me. If I had a way to do it, I would do it. I just don't know how to do all that yet, but I'm learning. I'm studying like marketing and all that stuff, so that whenever the opportunity that's coming is presented, I can just run with it. But like Morgaine, my little angel, not my angel, but an angel incarnate, like she said, I need to be more prepared to not just jump off the cliff, but to have my parachute on. So now that I'm putting everything together, I'm going to be putting that monologue out there for you guys to see. And that's how dedicated I am. I know that many of you are stepping into mission, and you're stepping into your power right now, and you are part of that 144, where you somehow are connected with the future, that you guys are going to make the ascension, that you have plans to help humanity, that you are going to make a difference, that you're going to rock the shit. To you all, yeah, let's keep going. I hope this wasn't egomaniacal or kind of weird. I just did what I was tasked with. Every day is a new ton of tests of me stepping into this. I'm still getting used to it. Although, as you can see, I kind of did my hair a little bit today. They're really big on me wearing black right now to protect my energies. I've been having some, psychic attack type of things, but that's nothing I can't handle. But it's just like, so they're dressing me a little bit more. I wish I had like a dresser. I'm just going to show you what I look like. For me, this is like normally what I would wear. Like gray slacks and a black t-shirt. Showing my tattoos. By the way, don't ever call me savage. the divine does not like. Someone recently must have said something about savage. And here's the thing, the reason I even know this is because I was really into Megan Thee Stallion Savage, and the divine does not like when someone refers to me as savage. I don't know why, but I think it might be my higher self, but as you guys understand, if you know anything about ascension, you understand why there's that connection there with God. It does not like to be referred to as savage, so just don't do that, because it immediately, my guides were like, gone. I don't know where that came from. Anyway, the moral story is, guys, we're going to do the best that we can, and we're going to do it successfully. I've never felt more assured in our success with our missions, and so I'm just really grateful to all of you that are supporting or watching this one, and to understand that you guys are really shining bright. But we already knew that, right? Anyway, that's it for me. Let the light guide you out of any darkness that you're in. Let it be the sovereignty that you speak of, and always remember that if you focus on the negative, you will only beget more negative. But if you follow the light and only focus on the light, you will only see that which serves you and helps you. That's it for me, guys. Bye.